For decades, special forces have been the go-to solution for top-secret and high-stakes missions around the globe. This trend really took off in the 1970s, a peak era for terrorism. I've covered many of these elite units before, like the British SAS, the American Delta Force, France's GIGN, and Germany's GSG-9. Today, we're diving into Poland's finest, GROM. Also known as Thunder. GROM has earned a fearsome reputation as Poland's most combat-ready unit. They're masters of special reconnaissance and unconventional warfare, capable of capturing strategic targets anywhere in the world. While they were officially formed in the 1990s, their roots trace all the way back to World War II. So, what challenges did they face? Why did they only emerge in the 90s? Who do they train with? And what legendary missions have they accomplished? And most importantly, how does one join their ranks to understand their origins? We have to go back to a dramatic event in 1982. This wasn't a foreign threat, but a crisis caused by their own countrymen. In Bern, Switzerland, armed Poles stormed their own embassy, taking 14 diplomatic staff hostage. The group's leader, Florian Krushik, claimed to represent a Polish underground army. Their demands were broadcast through a note passed out a window, an end to the martial law imposed in Poland in 1981, the release of all political prisoners, and a stop to the government's repression. They gave the Swiss authorities a 48-hour ultimatum. If their demands weren't met, they would leak secret embassy documents detailing strategic sites in Switzerland, France, and Poland. After that, they threatened to blow up the building, killing everyone inside. The Swiss authorities took the threat seriously. Krushik was a former officer in Poland's Communist-era security service, so he likely knew how to access sensitive information. He also had a criminal history abroad, with connections in Albania, where he planned to escape. The Swiss began negotiations to buy time. A tense process that lasted 35 hours. Intelligence confirmed Krushik wasn't bluffing. He had found secret documents. With time running out, Swiss special units began preparing to storm the embassy, free the hostages, and neutralize the threat. This crisis would become a critical catalyst, exposing a weakness that Poland would later address with the creation of GROM. For decades, special forces have been the go-to solution for top-secret and high-stakes missions around the globe. This trend really took off in the 1970s, a peak era for terrorism. I've covered many of these elite units before, like the British SAS, the American Delta Force, France's GIGN, and Germany's GSG-9. Today, we're diving into Poland's finest, GROM. Also known as Thunder. GROM has earned a fearsome reputation as Poland's most combat-ready unit. They're masters of special reconnaissance and unconventional warfare, capable of capturing strategic targets anywhere in the world. While they were officially formed in the 1990s, their roots trace all the way back to World War II. So, what challenges did they face? Why did they only emerge in the 90s? Who do they train with? And what legendary missions have they accomplished? And most importantly, how does one join their ranks to understand their origins? We have to go back to a dramatic event in 1982. This wasn't a foreign threat, but a crisis caused by their own countrymen. In Bern, Switzerland, armed Poles stormed their own embassy, taking 14 diplomatic staff hostage. The group's leader, Florian Krushik, claimed to represent a Polish underground army. Their demands were broadcast through a note passed out a window, an end to the martial law imposed in Poland in 1981, the release of all political prisoners, and a stop to the government's repression. They gave the Swiss authorities a 48-hour ultimatum. If their demands weren't met, they would leak secret embassy documents detailing strategic sites in Switzerland, France, and Poland. After that, they threatened to blow up the building, killing everyone inside. The Swiss authorities took the threat seriously. Krushik was a former officer in Poland's Communist-era security service, so he likely knew how to access sensitive information. He also had a criminal history abroad, with connections in Albania, where he planned to escape. The Swiss began negotiations to buy time. A tense process that lasted 35 hours. Intelligence confirmed Krushik wasn't bluffing. He had found secret documents. With time running out, Swiss special units began preparing to storm the embassy, free the hostages, and neutralize the threat. This crisis would become a critical catalyst, exposing a weakness that Poland would later address with the creation of GROM.
Did you know the Polish authorities originally planned to storm the embassy with their own special forces? It sounds like a movie scene, right? But wait, the Swiss, who were also involved, put a stop to it. They said, nope. Dragged on, things started getting pretty tough for the militants inside. Their grand plans began to shrink. Initially, they were demanding a whopping 3 million Swiss francs. But as time went on, and I guess as desperation kicked in, their demands got a lot simpler. They went from asking for a fortune to just wanting a way out, hoping to get safe passage to either Albania or China.
On September 9th, at precisely 10:39 in the morning, the Swiss decided it was time to act. They launched Operation Essen, a daring plan to storm the embassy and free the hostages. Imagine this: a few police officers from a special unit, all dressed in plain civilian clothes, walk up to the main door of the diplomatic building. They're carrying several boxes of food, which they just leave right there. Now, for the captors inside, this was completely normal. Every single morning, food was delivered for them and their hostages. So, seeing these boxes didn't raise any alarms. It all seemed routine. Just another breakfast delivery. But this time, it wasn't breakfast. Tucked inside those ordinary-looking baskets were tear gas canisters and stun grenades. The plan was simple but brilliant. As soon as the criminals grabbed the baskets and all 4 of them gathered together in one spot, the grenades would detonate. And that's exactly what happened the moment the shells went off. Swiss special forces began their assault, breaking into the building from multiple points. The preparation for this raid had been meticulous, taking at least 35 hours of planning and reconnaissance. Yet, the storming itself, it was over in a breathtaking 12 minutes. What's even more incredible is that the special forces didn't have to fire a single shot, not one. The second they burst through the doors, the Poles just gave up. They surrendered on the spot, but it wasn't because they were terrified of the incoming commandos. The real reason was something no one saw coming. As it turned out, they had absolutely nothing to fight back with. All their threats about blowing up the building or shooting the hostages, it was all a massive bluff. The weapons they brandished were fake, their bombs non-existent. The entire crisis, which had the world holding its breath, was orchestrated by 4 men with no real firepower. They had managed to create a full-blown international incident based on pure deception. It remains one of the most audacious and bizarre hostage situations in modern history.
Here's something that completely changes how we view that intense hostage situation. It turns out, the story we were told wasn't the full picture. The militants had threatened to blow up the entire building if their demands weren't met, claiming they were armed with a massive 55 kilograms of explosives. A terrifying thought, right? Well, later investigations revealed a shocking twist. They didn't have the explosives. Not a single gram. And it gets even more unbelievable. Some of the guns they were brandishing, those pistols and automatic rifles that looked so menacing, were actually fakes. They were just realistic-looking mock-ups designed to intimidate. This revelation completely reframes the event, showing how much of the danger was based on a carefully constructed bluff.
So, what happened to the militants a year after the embassy attack? Well, the sentences came down. Each of them got 2.5 years in prison, followed by 5 years in exile. Their leader, Florian Krushik, faced a much tougher penalty, 6 years behind bars and a staggering 15 years in exile. Now, you might be thinking, what about Poland? The Polish authorities definitely wanted to get their hands on these hijackers. They formally requested extradition, but the Swiss government said no. Their reasoning was that, at that time, Warsaw wasn't part of the Western European Agreement on prosecuting terrorism suspects. This whole incident really got the Polish government thinking. It highlighted a major gap in their capabilities. They realized they needed their own elite anti-terrorist unit. Imagine if they had one back then. First, They could have sent their own agents into other countries to handle the situation directly, without needing to ask for permission, and second, they wouldn't have had to go through the whole extradition process. They could have just captured the culprits themselves and brought them home, but there was a huge roadblock: the communist regime, trying to create a top-tier special forces unit in secret, underground, was practically impossible. Why? Because a unit of this caliber needs to train openly and officially with its international counterparts. They need to learn from the best, share tactics, and gain invaluable experience. Plus, the level of support they require, from funding to equipment to intelligence, has to be absolutely first class. None of this was possible under the political climate of the time. So, even though the need was crystal clear after the embassy siege, the dream of creating Poland's own elite anti-terrorist unit had to be put on hold. It was a frustrating reality, but a reality nonetheless.
Ever heard of the Bern spy scandal? It sounds like something straight out of a Cold War movie, but it is a true story that only came to light in 2013. Picture this. The Polish embassy in Switzerland is stormed. In the chaos that follows, Swiss authorities do something completely unexpected and illegal. They broke into the embassy, which is a major violation of international diplomatic rules. But they didn't just break in. They grabbed a bunch of top-secret documents, took them away, and photographed every single page. Then, they sneakily returned them, hoping no one would notice. When the Polish diplomats got back, they found some extra papers lying around and realized something was very wrong. Those photographed documents weren't just random files. They contained sensitive information about airports, secret agents, and even NATO military infrastructure. It was a massive intelligence breach, all happening right under everyone's noses. Wild, right?
Did you know that the creation of Poland's elite GROM special forces, also known as Thunder, has a surprising and complex origin story? It's deeply connected to the fate of Jewish citizens in the Soviet Union. Let's rewind to the early 1970s. At that time, Moscow began allowing a limited number of its Jewish citizens to emigrate, mostly to the United States and Israel. But this wasn't an act of pure goodwill. The Kremlin was playing a strategic game, using Jewish immigration as a bargaining chip to gain political and economic advantages. Think of it like this: the USSR would signal to the West, especially the United States, that if they wanted more people to be allowed to leave, there had to be something in it for Moscow. For instance, in the early 1980s, the Soviets made it clear that they would increase immigration quotas in exchange for economic benefits, like easing trade restrictions and getting better access to Western markets for their exports and imports. And you know what? It actually worked. This cynical trade-off became a key part of Soviet foreign policy. When Mikhail Gorbachev came to power in March 1985, he wanted to show the world that the USSR was ready to cooperate and fulfill its promises. So, he significantly increased the immigration quotas. This kicked off a massive wave of immigration. People were finally getting the chance to leave, and they needed a safe way to transit from the Soviet Union to their final destinations, like Israel. This is where Poland enters the picture. Seeing this huge movement of people, the Polish government saw a golden opportunity. By helping facilitate this transit, they could build stronger ties with the West, boost their international standing, and potentially gain economic advantages of their own. Poland established a special operation called Operation Bridge to secretly transport tens of thousands of Jewish immigrants from Moscow, through Warsaw, and on to Tel Aviv. It was a massive logistical and security challenge, however. This humanitarian and political mission came with immense risks. By helping these immigrants, Poland angered certain extremist groups in the Middle East who were hostile to Israel. In 1990, tragically, two Polish diplomats were attacked in Beirut, and one was seriously injured. This shocking event was a direct message to Warsaw to stop Operation Bridge, but Poland didn't back down. Instead, the Polish government realized it needed a specialized military unit capable of conducting high-stakes rescue missions and protecting its citizens and interests, both at home and abroad. And so, out of the ashes of this crisis, GROM was officially born on July 13, 1990. Its first mission was to protect the very transit operation that led to its creation. It's a fascinating, and often overlooked, piece of history how a struggle for freedom in one country directly led to the formation of one of the world's most respected special forces units in another.
Imagine it's 1990. The mighty Soviet Union is crumbling, and for hundreds of thousands of people, a once-in-a-lifetime window of opportunity is cracking open. The then Israeli Prime Minister, Yitzhak Shamir, estimated that as many as 500,000 Soviet citizens of Jewish origin were desperate to leave. Think about that uncertainty. No one knew how long this chance for freedom would last. Would the borders slam shut again tomorrow? For countless families who had dreamed of a life without oppression, the time to act was now. Thousands began a massive exodus, a frantic flight towards a new beginning. Their destinations were primarily Israel and the United States, two beacons of hope in a world that was changing faster than anyone could have imagined. It was a pivotal moment in history, a story of courage and the universal desire for freedom.
When we think about the mass immigration of Jews, especially from the Soviet Union, we often picture a straightforward journey, but the reality was far more complex and dangerous. The biggest hurdle wasn't getting permission to leave. It was simply getting from point A to point B safely, while the Kremlin didn't actively block departures. They certainly weren't eager to help. They offered no secure travel routes or assistance in crossing borders. Why the reluctance? A major factor was the intense pressure from Arab nations, Arab countries, particularly those neighboring Israel, were deeply concerned. They feared that a massive influx of Jewish immigrants would drastically shift the regional balance of power, strengthening Israel. To prevent this, they resorted to extreme measures. They launched attacks on convoys, orchestrated terrorist bombings, and did everything in their power to disrupt any escape route they could find. The goal was to make the journey so perilous that people would be too afraid to even try. Israel, facing this relentless campaign, knew it couldn't protect these convoys alone. They needed international partners. For a brief period, Hungary stepped up to help. They provided safe passage for Jews traveling through their country on their way to airports. But this alliance was short-lived. On one fateful day, as a convoy was being escorted, a bomb detonated, tragically killing a Hungarian police officer. The message from the attackers was brutally clear: if you help the Jews, you will become a target. Faced with the threat of more violence on their own soil, the Hungarian government in Budapest made a difficult decision. They backed out, ending their assistance and closing off a vital escape route. This left a critical gap in the transit network, but where one door closed, another unexpectedly opened. It was in this moment of crisis that Poland saw an opportunity to step in and play a role that would change the course of history for thousands of people. Their involvement would create a new, clandestine pathway to freedom, a story of courage and high-stakes diplomacy that unfolded in the final years of the Cold War.
Ever heard of Operation City? It was a secret Polish mission that changed thousands of lives right at the end of the Cold War. The man behind it was Tadeusz Mazowiecki, Poland's prime minister at the time. He saw helping Jewish immigrants as more than just a good deed. It was a chance for Poland to make things right. He believed his government could atone for the anti-Semitic campaign that happened under the communists in 1968. Plus, it was a smart political move to improve relations with both Israel and the United States. So, the Polish Foreign Ministry and its intelligence agencies got to work. Their mission? To create a secret air bridge, a safe passage for Soviet Jews to travel through Poland on their way to Israel. It was a bold humanitarian effort hidden in the shadows of global politics.
Imagine this: it's 1990, the Soviet Union is crumbling, and thousands of Soviet Jews are finally free to emigrate to Israel. But there's a huge problem: direct flights are blocked, and land routes are treacherous. How do you get them to safety? This is the story of Operation Bridge, one of the most daring and secretive rescue missions of the 20th century. Poland, newly freed from Soviet influence, stepped up. They agreed to become the secret transit point, a bridge to freedom. But they knew the risks. Terrorist groups had explicitly threatened to attack any country that helped Jewish immigrants. Poland wasn't equipped to handle this kind of international threat on its own. So, they made two crucial phone calls, one to Washington and one to Tel Aviv. Immediately, the United States and Israel sent their top anti-terrorism and aviation security experts to Poland. They didn't just bring knowledge, They brought material support. The elite team of Polish officers who developed and executed the plan for this massive operation would later form the core of Poland's legendary Special Forces unit, GROM, but that's a story for another time. Operation Bridge officially, though secretly, kicked off in the spring of 1990. While the exact start date is still classified, we know the first flight carrying emigrants departed from Warsaw on June 14th. The logistics were a nightmare. People would arrive by train from the USSR to a designated station in Warsaw. From there, they were quietly whisked away to various hotels, hidden in plain sight. When it was time to leave, they were transported to the airport, one by one, under the cover of darkness. All flights were exclusively at night. Each plane was given a unique identification number to avoid detection on board. The passengers weren't alone. They were guarded by heavily armed Polish and Israeli commandos, ready for any attempt to hijack the aircraft. The airport itself was a fortress. Hundreds of police and Secret Service agents patrolled the perimeter. During boarding and disembarking, a strict exclusion zone was enforced. No one was allowed within 150 meters of the airport fence. It was a massive, silent, and incredibly tense operation, happening right under the nose of the world. Over the next 2 years, Poland's Operation Bridge successfully transported over 90,000 people to a new life. It was a stunning display of courage, international cooperation, and logistical genius, a chapter of history that deserves to be remembered.
Back in 1990, an incredible story unfolded, and Poland was right at the heart of it. It all started with an agreement to help about 18,000 Jewish immigrants from the Soviet Union get to Israel. But this was just the beginning. The operation quickly ramped up, with transports running twice a week. Can you imagine? That's about 7,000 people finding their way to a new life every single month. While we don't have the exact numbers, estimates suggest that over 2 years, Poland helped anywhere from 40,000 to as many as 100,000 people. When the mission was finally complete, Israeli Foreign Minister Shimon Peres personally thanked Poland for this monumental joint effort. It's a powerful chapter of history that deserves to be remembered.
So, when we talk about the creation of the Polish Special Forces unit GROM, we have to talk about one man in particular, Brigadier General Sławomir Patelicki. You could say the military was in his blood. The men in his family had a long tradition of service, and he naturally followed in their footsteps. Back in the 1970s, as a young civilian intelligence officer, he had the chance to visit the United States. While he was there, something really captured his imagination: the elite special units. He became fascinated with the operations of American commandos and the legendary British SAS. Patelicki was convinced that a small group of highly trained soldiers like these could accomplish almost any mission, anywhere on the globe. He saw the immense potential and wanted to bring that capability back home to Poland. However, this was the 1970s, the height of the Cold War. Given the geopolitical situation, the idea of creating a special forces unit modeled after Western powers was a non-starter. The political climate just wouldn't allow it. Nobody in power was going to give him the green light to create a Polish version of the SAS. So, his ambitious idea had to be shelved. He was forced to put his dream away in a deep, dark closet, where it remained dormant for years. It wasn't until the 1990s that the political winds finally shifted. A specific international event, a covert operation to help evacuate Jewish citizens, highlighted a critical gap in Poland's capabilities. The aftermath of that complex and dangerous mission made it crystal clear to the Polish leadership that they needed their own elite, anti-terrorist unit. A unit with global reach and established connections. Suddenly, the conditions were perfect. The idea that Patelicki had kept locked away for 2 decades was finally brought back into the light. This was the moment that directly led to the birth of GROM, a force that would soon earn its place among the world's best. And it all started with one man's vision and unwavering belief.
Picture this. It's March 30th, 1990, in Lebanon. A tense atmosphere hangs in the air. Suddenly, a violent attack rocks the Polish embassy. Arab terrorists seeking revenge target the commercial attach, leaving him seriously wounded. 2 other Polish citizens are caught in the crossfire, injured in the brutal assault. The news sends shockwaves back to Poland. How can they protect their people abroad? How can they ensure a safe evacuation from such a hostile environment? The government needed someone exceptional, a man of action and sharp intellect. They turned to Lieutenant Colonel Sławomir Pytlicki. At the time, he was the head of security at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. He was dispatched to Lebanon with a critical mission: protect the remaining Poles and get them out safely. Little did anyone know, this dangerous mission would plant the seed for the creation of one of the world's most elite special forces units, Poland's GROM.
After a tense situation in Lebanon involving Polish citizens, a man named Sławomir Pytlicki came back to Poland with a big idea. He went straight to the Minister of the Interior, Krzysztof Kozłowski, and proposed creating a brand new special unit. This unit's main job would be to rescue Polish citizens in high-stakes situations, no matter where in the world they were. Now, creating a top-tier special forces unit from scratch is no easy task. Poland didn't have the extensive experience needed to design everything on its own. So, Pytlicki did something smart. He looked at the best of the best. He studied the blueprints of legendary units like the British 22nd Special Air Service, or SAS, the American Delta Force, and Germany's GSG-9. He took the most effective elements from each of them, blended them together, and created a unique proposal for a Polish unit. He called it GROM, which is Polish for thunder. The concept was a hit. Kozłowski gave Pytlicki the green light and the funding he needed to start recruiting, training, and equipping Poland's future elite force. In a way, Pytlicki became the father of GROM, and Kozłowski its godfather. This moment wasn't just about creating a new unit. It was a significant step for Poland in aligning itself with Western military structures after the fall of the Iron Curtain. The official founding date of GROM is July 13, 1990. However, you wouldn't have seen any big announcements or parades. The creation of this unit was kept top secret. Only a select few knew that Poland was developing this new, powerful capability. The first recruits were carefully chosen. They were experienced operators from existing special services and law enforcement agencies. These were the people who had the foundational knowledge to absorb the advanced training from foreign partners, primarily the British and Americans, who had decades of experience in this field. The plan was for this first generation of GROM soldiers to learn, master the skills, and then become the instructors for all future members of the unit. Let's talk about that name GROM. Pytlicki's vision was for the unit's name to perfectly capture its purpose. They were to be a force that could strike anywhere, anytime, without warning, like a thunderbolt from a clear sky. This is why their emblem features a hawk clutching a lightning bolt, ready to unleash it at a moment's notice. The name GROM is also an acronym in Polish for Operational Maneuverable Response Group. Some say it originally stood for something else, but that's the official meaning. Amazingly, just 2 years after its secret creation, by 1992, GROM was fully operational and combat-ready. Despite being created under the Ministry of the Interior, the unit was already conducting real-world missions across the globe. It wasn't until 1999 that GROM was officially transferred to the Ministry of National Defense, cementing its place as a key component of the Polish armed forces. From a simple idea born out of a crisis, GROM quickly grew into one of the world's most respected special operations units, a silent guardian ready to answer the call.
Ever wonder how the elite become elite? Let's talk about Poland's GROM Special Forces Unit, also known as Thunder. Their journey to becoming one of the world's best started with some serious international collaboration. Back in 1990, a select group of 13 Polish soldiers were sent for intense initial training. And who were their mentors? None other than operators from the legendary American Delta Force and the British SAS. Talk about learning from the best. But the training didn't stop there. After this initial phase, the Americans took it a step further. They sent their own experienced instructors, including some from the CIA, directly to Poland to train the rest of the unit on their home turf. This foundation of elite mentorship is a huge reason why GROM is so respected today. It really shows how sharing knowledge and experience can build something truly powerful.
Ever dreamed of joining an elite special forces unit? Today, we're diving into the grueling selection process for Poland's legendary GROM, also known as Thunder. And let me tell you, it's not for the faint of heart. First off, you have to be a Polish citizen under 30. That's the non-negotiable entry ticket. After that, It's all about your physical and mental grit. Both civilians and military personnel can apply, but those already in uniform have a slight edge. You'll need at least a secondary education. And speaking foreign languages will definitely boost your chances. But here's the deal, you can be a linguistic genius, but if you can't handle the physical demands, the door to GROM is slammed shut. The physical standards are so high that you only get 2 shots at passing. Think about that. Only about 10% of all applicants actually make it through. The instructors believe that if you're truly motivated, you'll find a way to meet the challenge. The physical tests are constantly evolving. For example, the underwater swim used to be 50 meters, now it's 25. You can swim freestyle, but you have to beat the clock. And that's the theme for everything: speed and precision. The exact times change depending on the season and other factors. But the grading is simple: good, excellent, or you're out. The core exercises always include running, swimming, push-ups, squats, sprints, diving, wall climbing, and rope exercises. Everyone, even those applying for a technical role, has to pass these tests, survive the physical gauntlet, and you'll face a multi-hour interview with a psychologist. They dig deep, not just into your own mind, but into your life, your family, and your friends. GROM operators must have an impeccable reputation. If the psychologists give you the green light, you move on to the assessment week. Think of it as a polish hell week. For 6 straight days, you'll carry a 20-kilogram backpack everywhere. You'll walk, run, crawl, and even eat with it. Your day starts at 5 a.m. and ends at 11 p.m. This week is designed to test your physical and psychological endurance with tasks like orienteering and drills. Candidates often lose around 7 kilograms during this phase alone. The goal is to push you to a state of extreme fatigue. Instructors limit your food, water, and sleep, all while demanding perfect execution of tasks. You might be shooting while solving math problems, or planning a mock operation. It's all about testing your stress resistance and ability to think clearly under immense pressure. And yes, it's all done under medical supervision to ensure safety. So, what do you think? Could you survive the selection for GROM? Let me know in the comments below.
Imagine burning 5,000 calories every single day. That's the reality for candidates at this brutal stage of training. It's not just about physical endurance. It's a test of pure mental fortitude. The instructors push them to their absolute limits, forcing them to swim in bone-chilling icy water. As if that wasn't enough, they get pepper sprayed and even tasered. It sounds insane, right? But there's a method to this madness. Medical teams are on standby 24/7, monitoring every candidate to ensure no one suffers a serious injury. This extreme pressure is designed to weed out those who can't handle the stress. If the intensity becomes too much, a candidate can choose to leave. For the few who endure, who refuse to quit, a whole new level of challenge awaits.
So, you've passed all the brutal tests and made it into the training course for the legendary Thunder Unit. What happens next? Well, the journey has only just begun, and it's divided into 3 intense stages: green, blue, and black. Let's dive into the green stage first. This is where future operators learn their core operational skills. Think of it as the foundation of everything they do. They master field reconnaissance, learning how to move unseen behind enemy lines. They're trained in sabotage, hitting targets with precision, and disappearing without a trace. A huge part of this stage is learning how to properly neutralize threats while also being able to rescue and evacuate civilians caught in the crossfire. It's about being both a warrior and a guardian. Once they conquer the green stage, it's time for blue. As you might guess, this phase is all about the water. The training here pushes operators to a whole new level of operational capability. They become experts in combat diving, underwater sabotage, and taking on enemy ships. They conduct naval reconnaissance, gathering intelligence from the sea, and handle a ton of other incredibly demanding tasks in aquatic environments, from the silent depths to the surface. They must own the water. Finally, we reach the black stage, the pinnacle of their training. This is where operators learn the art of hostage rescue and protecting VIPs. It's the highest level of close quarters combat and strategic protection. This training integrates everything they've learned on land and sea, and even adds an aerial component. It's about performing flawlessly when lives are on the line, and there's zero room for error. But here's the thing about Thunder operators, their training never really stops. They are in a constant state of improvement. One day they're practicing underwater demolitions. The next they're perfecting airborne insertions and proper landing techniques. They spend countless hours on mission planning, but what's truly remarkable is their focus on combat medicine. According to unofficial data, an astonishing 75% of Thunder personnel are fully qualified combat medics, while one operator might be a demolition expert and another a specialist in close protection. Every single one of them must know how to save a life on the battlefield. It's a non-negotiable skill. Maybe that's the real reason they've earned the nickname surgeons, because their most important mission is saving lives.
Ever wondered what it takes to be part of an elite special forces unit? Let's talk about GROM. From the very start, these operators have been deployed on combat missions all over the globe. This means they're ready to handle special operations in any climate, any terrain you can imagine, from scorching deserts to frozen tundras. How do they get so good? It all comes down to an incredibly complex and specialized training program. It's not just a one-and-done course either. The real secret is that their training is adaptive. Every piece of experience they gain on a mission feeds back into modifying the program. This constant evolution ensures they can respond effectively and immediately to any threat against national or international security. They're always one step ahead.
Ever wondered what it takes to be part of an elite special forces unit like Poland's GROM, also known as Thunder? Their training is intense, to say the least. It's built around three core pillars: sea and land counterterrorism, maritime security operations, and a whole range of special tasks. This third category is where things get really interesting. We're talking about deep reconnaissance behind enemy lines, carrying out sabotage missions, and even targeted eliminations of high-value individuals or technical threats. They also play a critical role in evacuating civilians from dangerous situations. It's a huge scope of responsibility. You might think each operator has a highly specific job, but that's not the whole story. While everyone has their role for a given mission, at their core, they are all universal soldiers. Thunder operators are deliberately trained to be interchangeable. This is a brilliant and logical strategy. If a team member is lost during an operation, the rest of the group must have the skills and resources to complete the mission without missing a beat. There's no room for a single point of failure. A fascinating shift happened when Grzegorz Szmyklasiak took command of Thunder. He began to actively recruit younger members into the unit's ranks. Why? The answer is all about preparing for the future of warfare. He saw that new conflicts would be dominated by technology, something the younger generation has grown up with. They are digital natives. For these new recruits, Thunder doesn't just put them through the standard grueling training. They've also developed specialized courses and tests designed specifically for the high-tech battleground. This ensures that the unit stays ahead of the curve, ready to face any threat. Whether it's on a physical battlefield or a digital one, it's this constant evolution and forward thinking that keeps Thunder among the world's most respected special forces.
I get to watch these people up close, and it's truly something else. I see them train, I see them push through the intense selection process, and honestly, it's inspiring. If there's one thing I can say for sure, it's that they are absolutely amazing. They just have this natural ability to adapt to our digital world and the complexities of the modern battlefield. It's like they're wired differently. You see it in how they handle technologically advanced equipment. They have this incredible inclination, this knack for making it an extension of themselves. It's not just about being strong or fast anymore. It's about being smart, intuitive, and ready for whatever comes next. It really gives you a new perspective on what people are capable of.
So, where did the Polish Thunder unit really cut its teeth and prove its worth? Well, back home in Poland, their main job was pretty cloak and dagger. They were tasked with hunting down communist spies and collaborators still lurking within the government and state institutions. Thankfully, they weren't needed for domestic citizen security missions. Things were stable enough on that front. This meant most of their real-world experience was gained abroad, on international missions. Their first major test came just 4 years after the unit was formed. When they were deployed for a high-stakes operation in Haiti, this mission would be the first of many where GROM demonstrated its elite capabilities on the world stage.
Did you know that back in 1994, one of the world's most elite special forces units cut its teeth in the Caribbean? We're talking about Poland's GROM, also known as Thunder. That year, they deployed to Haiti alongside the legendary Delta Force for Operation Support for Democracy. Their mission was high stakes, providing close protection for VIPs and key personnel, including the UN Secretary General and the US Secretary of Defense. This was a huge moment. It was GROM's first major international mission, and they were shoulder to shoulder with America's best. What's even more impressive? Besides the United States, Poland was the only nation that initially volunteered its special forces for this critical operation. This mission in Haiti wasn't just about security. It was about GROM proving to the world that they were a force to be reckoned with.
For the Poles, this was a trial by fire, a true test of their mettle. They had never operated in a climate like this before. Imagine stepping off a plane from cool, temperate Poland into the stifling, humid heat of Haiti. Danger was everywhere. The Haitian army had practically evaporated, leaving a power vacuum. Chaos reigned, looting was rampant, crime rates were soaring, and ruthless criminal gangs were taking over the streets. It was a pressure cooker environment. And the Poles were thrown right into the middle of it. Their first assignment was crystal clear and critically important: protect high-profile foreign dignitaries and leaders visiting Haiti. This wasn't just some routine security detail. This was bodyguarding on the highest level in one of the most dangerous places on Earth. So, on October 17, 1994, a name you might recognize, Sławomir Patelicki, the legendary founder of GROM, assembled his team and deployed. This mission was more than just a job. For Patelicki and for Poland as a whole, it was a test of reliability. It was a chance to prove they could be trusted partners on the world stage, that they were ready and willing to work as part of a larger international coalition. And you have to think, the Americans were watching very, very closely. They had a vested interest in this. After all, they had invested heavily in training the GROM operators. They sent their best consultants and intelligence agents to Warsaw, sharing tactics and expertise. This mission was the final exam. Was all that effort, all that training, worth it? Would these polished commandos live up to the hype? And surprisingly, the Poles treated this mission with the utmost seriousness. They understood what was at stake: not just the lives of the people they were protecting, but the reputation of their unit and their entire country. Their preparation was meticulous, their focus razor sharp. They were ready to show the world what they were made of.
Ever wonder what elite soldiers go through before a high-stakes mission? Let's dive into the intense training of Poland's GROM unit. Just before their deployment, these fighters headed to a special camp in Puerto Rico. This wasn't a vacation. It was the ultimate test. They had to prove their mastery with weapons, execute flawless offensive and defensive maneuvers, and get hands-on experience with various American armored vehicles. But the training didn't stop there. Us instructors gave them a crash course on the challenges ahead. They provided crucial intel on the local mindset, the types of weapons they'd encounter, and the common, dangerous traps they needed to watch out for. It was a comprehensive preparation designed to ensure they were ready for anything.
Their journey to international recognition is seriously incredible. Starting with a high-stakes test in Haiti. So, the Americans sent over some of their own special forces soldiers to act as supervisors. Their job was to watch the Poles, report back to command, and basically figure out if GROM could be trusted with major missions. Well, GROM didn't just meet expectations, they shattered them. First, they set up their own base 35 kilometers outside of Port-au-Prince, the Haitian capital. They handled their own security completely independently. In fact, they were so effective that even the U.S. Navy SEALs entrusted their own personnel to GROM's protection. Think about that for a second, and get this: throughout their entire deployment in Haiti, not a single person under GROM's protection was ever harmed. And they weren't just guarding low-level personnel. We're talking about some serious VIPs. On their client list was the UN Special Envoy, Dr. Brahimi. Local gangs had put a bounty of up to $150,000 on his head, but GROM kept him safe. They also protected UN Secretary General Boutros Boutros-Ghali, U.S. National Security Advisor Anthony Lake, and Secretary of Defense William Perry, among many others. Essentially, dozens of high-profile individuals from all over the world, arriving weekly as part of the peacekeeping mission, were put under GROM's care. After proving their absolute reliability in Haiti, the Poles started getting called up for even tougher assignments. For example, starting in 1995, GROM became heavily involved in operations in the Balkans. They were initially sent after two Polish citizens were taken hostage in Sarajevo. From there, their involvement grew, and they operated across the region, earning a legendary reputation. One of their most famous operations was the capture of Slavko Dokmanovic, a Croatian Serb wanted for war crimes. He was known as the Butcher of Vukovar, responsible for the massacre of over 200 people. It was a daring and difficult capture, and GROM pulled it off, cementing their status as a truly elite force on the world stage. What an incredible story of skill and dedication. It just goes to show how GROM earned their place among the best of the best.
Ever heard of Operation Little Flower? It's a story straight out of a spy thriller, but it's all true. This was the code name for the mission to capture Slavko Dokmanovic, the former mayor of Vukovar, also known as the Butcher of Vukovar. He was wanted for horrific war crimes during the Yugoslav wars, specifically the massacre of hundreds of Croatian civilians and prisoners of war. For years, he evaded justice, but a Polish Special Forces unit, GROM, was on the case. They meticulously planned his capture, studying his routines, his bodyguards, and even their weapons. The operatives posed as unpeacekeepers, luring Dokmanovic into a trap under the guise of a meeting. In a swift, perfectly executed move, they apprehended him without a single shot fired. It was a landmark moment, proving that even the most wanted criminals can be brought to justice.
From the late 90s all the way up to 2006, the elite unit known as GROM, or Thunder, was on the ground, making a huge impact. Their primary mission was tracking down individuals wanted for war crimes and maintaining local law and order. They were incredibly effective too. Working alongside other forces, they successfully apprehended 6 wanted individuals, including the notorious Butcher of Vukovar. Their reputation for professionalism was so solid that they were even entrusted with providing security for the American ambassador in Kosovo. It was a tough, demanding deployment that truly tested their skills. But their story doesn't end there. In 2003, as their Balkan operations were ongoing, a new front opened up Iraq. Here, the missions for Thunder became even more high-stakes and strategically critical. One of their most famous operations involved capturing 2 vital Iraqi oil terminals, Gur al-Maya and Mina al-Baka. These weren't easy targets. Iraqi forces were dug in and prepared to defend them. But GROM's intense training paid off. They launched their assaults and, against stiff resistance, managed to seize both terminals without a single casualty on their side. During the fight for Mina al-Baka, they even captured 30 Iraqi soldiers. This string of incredible successes didn't go unnoticed. Their American allies were so impressed by GROM's efficiency and daring that they granted the Polish unit significantly more freedom to plan and execute their own missions. One such operation saw them teaming up with U.S. Navy SEALs to capture the massive Mucurain Dam. This was another critical piece of infrastructure, and securing it was paramount. The joint force moved in, and once again, the mission was a resounding success. Incredibly, the only injury sustained by the GROM operators during that entire high-risk confrontation was a single operative who broke his ankle while fast-roping from a helicopter. It's a testament to the incredible skill and bravery of these elite soldiers.
Ever wondered how crucial infrastructure is secured during a major conflict? Let's go back to March 2003, right at the start of the Iraq War. The mission: capture the vital port of Khayr and its offshore oil terminals. This wasn't just any operation. It was a joint effort involving U.S. Marines from the 15th Expeditionary Unit and the British 3rd Commando Brigade. The battle for Khayr was fierce. It took several intense days of fighting to secure these strategic assets. The coalition forces faced determined resistance, but ultimately succeeded in their objective, paving the way for humanitarian aid to enter the country through the port. However, victory came at a cost. During the assault, the Allied forces sadly lost 14 of their own. It was a tough, early fight in a long conflict, highlighting the immense challenges and sacrifices involved in such operations.
Did you know that Poland's Elite Special Forces Unit, GROM, also known as Thunder, played a crucial role in Afghanistan? One of their most renowned teams there was Task Force 49. These operators were masters of reconnaissance and high-stakes raid operations. Their primary mission: to hunt down and neutralize key figures involved in terrorism. Imagine the intensity of those missions, operating deep in hostile territory. To this day, the vast majority of Thunder's operations in Afghanistan remain top secret, even after the withdrawal of Allied forces in 2021. The full extent of their incredible work is still shrouded in mystery. It just goes to show how vital these silent professionals were to the mission.
Did you know about the elite Polish Special Forces unit called GROM, or Thunder in English? These guys are the best of the best, and their job is to protect Poland's most important people, no matter where they go. For example, when Polish President Andrzej Duda visited Kyiv, Ukraine, who do you think was discreetly watching over him? You guessed it, the Thunder. They were also spotted providing security during his visit to the Baltic states back in 2022. It makes total sense, right? When you're operating in a complex environment or a potential conflict zone, you need an elite team you can trust. The Thunder unit is the perfect choice for that kind of high-stakes personal protection.
Let's talk a bit more about the war in Ukraine, specifically from a Polish perspective, which I find really fascinating. So, the head of Poland's Elite Special Forces Unit, GROM, a man named Grzegorz Miklasiak, recently gave an interview to Polish media. And what he said was pretty revealing. He mentioned that Russia's full-scale invasion didn't actually come as a surprise to them at all. Think about that for a moment. He said that as soon as Russia started massing troops along the Ukrainian border, GROM immediately began preparing for the potential fallout. They knew something big was about to happen and started getting ready for the consequences. Now, this is where it gets even more interesting. Miklasiak was asked about a specific incident right at the beginning of the war. You might remember this. Photos started circulating online showing Black Hawk helicopters, the kind used by GROM operators, and on board these helicopters were high-profile Ukrainian politicians. The interviewer pressed him on this, suggesting that maybe it was GROM who flew these Ukrainian officials to safety. Possibly even to those first tense negotiation talks with Russia that happened right after the invasion started. It makes a lot of sense, right? Who else would you trust for a high-stakes extraction like that? You'd want the best of the best, and GROM certainly fits that description. They would have been the ones ensuring the safety of Ukraine's leadership during one of the most critical and dangerous moments of the conflict. But here's the thing. Miklasiak wouldn't confirm or deny it when asked directly if GROM commandos were the ones in those Black Hawks, flying Ukrainian officials during those first chaotic days. He remained completely tight-lipped. He simply stated that he couldn't comment on it. This non-answer, of course, speaks volumes. It's the classic response you'd expect from a Special Forces commander about a sensitive covert operation. He didn't deny it, which is often as good as a confirmation in that world. It strongly suggests that Poland, through its elite GROM unit, was playing a crucial, hands-on role behind the scenes from the very first hours of the invasion, helping to protect and stabilize the Ukrainian government. But for now, the official story remains a secret. Miklasiak ended by saying they aren't commenting on it. At least, not yet. This leaves the door open for the full story to come out someday. It's a reminder that there are so many stories of heroism and international cooperation from this war that we still don't know about. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching. And don't forget to subscribe for more insights.
Sooner or later, every conflict comes to an end, and when the dust finally settles, what's left are the stories. Just think about it. After every major event, a flood of books, movies, and documentaries are made. It happened with the wars in Afghanistan and Iraq, and countless other conflicts throughout history. These stories become our way of understanding what happened. But right now, while things are still unfolding, many of the details are kept under wraps, and for good reason. The full picture isn't clear yet. So, for now, let's be patient. The time for deep dives and full explanations will come. One day, all the pieces will be put together, and the complete story will be told for everyone to see.
Imagine a moonless night, deep in the heart of occupied Europe during World War II. A lone aircraft cuts through the darkness, flying low and fast. Suddenly, figures drop from its belly, parachutes blossoming like dark flowers against the sky. They land silently, disappearing into the forests and fields of Poland. Who were these phantoms of the night? They were the Chicocimni, the silent and seen. These weren't just ordinary soldiers. They were the best of the best, the elite of the Polish armed forces in the West, chosen from thousands of volunteers who had escaped the fall of Poland. They were sent to secret training camps in Britain and Italy. There, they were forged into something new, something the enemy would come to fear. They learned sabotage, espionage, and the deadly arts of silent killing. They became experts in explosives, masters of radio communication, and seasoned intelligence gatherers. Their mission was audacious, to return to their homeland and fuel the resistance from within. They were the vital link between the Polish government in exile in London and the home army fighting on the ground. They brought money, equipment, and most importantly, expertise. They organized ambushes, blew up bridges and railways, and eliminated key figures of the occupation. They trained local resistance fighters, turning them into effective guerrilla units. Each Chicocimni was a force multiplier, their impact far exceeding their numbers. They operated in the shadows, their identities known only to a select few. They moved through cities and countryside like ghosts, always one step ahead of the Gestapo. The risks were immense. Capture meant certain torture and death, yet over 300 of these brave men and women volunteered to be dropped back into the Hornet's nest. Their story is one of incredible courage, sacrifice, and an unyielding love for their country. And so we come to that first jump, on the night of February 15, 1941. The first of the Chicocimni parachuted into occupied Poland. They were the elite. Ordinary Polish soldiers transformed into deadly saboteurs, spies, and commanders. They were called the silent and seen because they appeared suddenly, both on the front lines and deep in the enemy's rear, dropped exclusively at night. No one knew where these fighters might materialize. They were silent, they were invisible, and they became a legend.
The story begins back in 1941, at training bases in Scotland during World War II. Originally, Sneak Cheek described the way fighter planes would suddenly appear out of nowhere, strike, and then vanish just as quickly. It was all about their stealthy and surprising tactics. But the term didn't just stick to their combat style. Over time, it came to define the entire service of these pilots and their ground crews. They were the unsung heroes who operated in the shadows. From secret missions to quiet preparations, they did everything quietly and unnoticed, making a huge impact without any of the fanfare. It's a great reminder of the silent dedication behind major historical events.
Have you ever heard of the Chicocimni? The silent and seen. They were some of the most elite special operations paratroopers of World War II. A symbol of Polish resistance and courage that continues to inspire today. Imagine this, out of 413 candidates who signed up for their grueling training, only 605 actually completed it. That's how tough it was. But the average age hovered around 25. These were the best and brightest of their generation, filled with a burning desire to see an independent Poland once again. Their training was top secret, organized by the British in secluded country estates. Small groups of about 12 to 15 recruits would arrive for intensive instruction. Interestingly, most of the instructors were Poles themselves, veterans who knew exactly what skills were needed on the ground. They taught these young men everything, from parachuting out of planes under the cover of darkness to the art of sabotage, intelligence gathering, and covert opposition. Every skill was honed for one purpose, to hit the enemy where it hurt and support the Polish underground resistance. Once they landed in Poland, their missions were incredibly dangerous. They organized resistance cells, trained local fighters, carried out assassinations of high-ranking German officials, and blew up vital infrastructure like bridges and railways. They were ghosts, operating in the shadows, their very existence a secret. The name Chicochimni, or silent and seen, was perfect for them. They moved without a trace and struck without warning, becoming a nightmare for the occupiers. Their bravery was legendary. Take Jan Pivnik, codenamed Ponyuri. He became a famous partisan commander in the Wiktokrzyski Mountains, leading one of the largest and most effective guerrilla units of the Home Army. His leadership and daring raids made him a folk hero. Orlbita Zawadzka, codenamed Zo, the only woman among the 316 Chicochimni dropped into Poland. She served as a courier, crossing heavily guarded borders over 100 times, carrying vital information between the Polish government in exile in London and the underground in Warsaw. Her courage and dedication were simply extraordinary. The legacy of the Chicochimni is powerful and enduring in modern Poland. They are held up as the ultimate role models of patriotism and sacrifice. This is especially true for Poland's elite Special Forces unit, GROM. The operators of GROM see themselves as the direct descendants of the Chicochimni, carrying on their traditions of excellence and unwavering commitment to their country. In fact, the connection is so deep that GROM's headquarters houses a private museum dedicated to these World War II heroes. It's filled with their original equipment, weapons, and personal belongings. This sacred space is not open to the public. It's reserved for the Special Forces operators, a place for them to connect with their history and draw inspiration from the silent and seen. It serves as a constant reminder of the high standards they must uphold and the sacrifices made by those who came before them. Today, when you see Polish Special Forces operating in high-stakes missions around the world, tackling incredibly complex tasks with precision and power, you're seeing the spirit of the Chicochimni in action. They do it all for one singular goal: the safety and well-being of Poland. Their motto even echoes this dedication. They live by the words, Siły honor, strength, and honor, and Tobi, Ojczyzno, for you, homeland. It's a direct continuation of the promise made by those brave paratroopers decades ago. The silent unseen may have fought in the past, but their legacy of courage continues to light the way for Poland's defenders today. Thank you so much for watching this video to the end. If you found this story as inspiring as I do, please hit that like button and subscribe for more hidden histories. See you in the next one.